City of Wyoming, Minnesota, October 4th, 2022. Let the record reflect, we do have a quorum. Member Luger, Member Onstead, Member Schilling, Member Yeager, and Mayor Iverson are present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing on the agenda is open forum. Is an opportunity for members of the public to address the City Council on items that are on or not on the current agenda. Items requiring council action may be deferred to staff or boards and commissions for research and future council agendas if appropriate. You will be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask that you conduct yourself in a professional, courteous manner and refrain from the use of profanity. Failure to abide by this policy may result in the loss of your privilege to speak. So the sign-in page tonight just has one, just confirming with everybody. Mr. Babbitt, right now you're the only one marked for speaking.
And it was on item 11. Do you want me to wait till item 11?
No, come on up. Is there anybody else that wanted to speak okay. All right. State your name for the record.
Dan Babbitt, 26200, you. I was just wondering, number one, did we come to a conclusion on if people need to reimburse for the grass seed and drive through that?
We'll be discussing that. As a council as a whole, we have to discuss it. So there'll be a decision tonight.
Okay. Second question I guess I brought up, and I guess my first question last time, is the city going to put in the process, a written process for looking at how the city roads or projects or street projects are doing? We're spending millions of dollars every time we do that. And it's my humble opinion, no civil engineer, but a little school bar from 262nd to 263rd, wrong size culverts, narrow roads, the seeding not getting done. And I guess I think it's really important for the taxpayers' money that we have a process. I drove down Goodview, the length of Goodview, and all the patching, and that's a pretty new road. You know what, that thing's patched all over the place, you know, and I guess so. I'm just wondering, is that something that's going to be on the agenda, or is that something we're not going to worry about?
Mr. Linwood, can you answer that? And can you also talk about, maybe Mr. Erickson can talk about Goodview, and it's not really patches on Goodview, but whatever they just got done
Yeah, and I
doing.
let
So
Mr.
whoever can answer
Erickson,
those two.
go to that. But there is specific maintenance that we perform on our city streets. Is Goodview Avenue being done in 2017 that was due for seal coating, which we type that, and then crack sealing. That's a standard maintenance to all of our city streets. So, Mr. Erickson, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, couple of just comments, I guess. One, I know the comment has come up before about the culvert size. And, we had received feedback prior to the project regarding substantial flows. We had email and video with the flows going through that culvert. Many communities have a minimum culvert size of 15-inch. This culvert changed in size from a 12-inch to a 15-inch culvert. So it was on the plans. I know Mr. Babbitt had a conversation with a contractor on site that said it was changed in size to a 15-inch because the pipe, there was a lot of issues with material delivery and supplies of things, and that was inaccurate from the contractor. I understand, I appreciate the guys in the field, and they don't always know what goes into the design and some of the background and why we did what we did. But I just wanted to just make a comment on that. And I can appreciate your comment and your concerns, and maybe you disagree with the decision that was made to do that, but that was a conscious decision, and it was identified on the plans.
I would just like to reply to that. I would buy that if they had on the plan then to fix the drainage. My next door neighbor Dan, the culvert goes between us. We looked at it. He's an engineer for Boston Scientific. First thing he says is, let's measure this. We got a ruler out, and that drain or that culvert was 6 inches below the dirt. It wasn't on the project plan. Nobody from WSB said anything to any of us. I waited over a week and I called. Then Mr. Erickson did come out and look at it, said he'd get it on the project plan. And then I'm persistent, so I kept calling him every once in a while and I wasn't hearing anything. And he was telling me he couldn't get it on the project plan. That's when I reached out to you and I got a letter. I appreciate that they would fix it. I guess the I'm no engineer, but I did a lot of project work, and if you're gonna make that big of a change and you can see something's not gonna drain, a first year intern would have known, if we're gonna put that much bigger
Mr.
of a
Babbitt,
pipe in,
though, I'm just, if I can just say this, please. I kind of feel like it's a little more hostile right now, and that's
is.
not, but that, I'm gonna ask you to be respectful.
Okay.
Because Mr. Erickson, I'm gonna say this right now, they've done a lot of projects, they've done a great job. I can totally understand why you're frustrated, I get that. But being disrespectful is not the answer to it either, so I'm gonna ask you to be
I
respectful.
apologize, I guess I just want you to look at, my wife and I and Dave and Shane across the street have lived there for 29 years and paid property taxes. We had a change to our property that we would have never opted to do, and we got the honor of paying $2,700 for that. Steve and Wendy and Harry and Susan have lived there for 29 years just down the road, and the roads are narrower. They had to come and move Steve's mailbox 2 feet up because it was too far away from the road for the mail person. And as I said originally, if they had come and said, hey, this is the issue, we're having a problem with this, we're gonna fix it, and we're gonna make sure it drains, and then done it, you would have never heard a peep from me. All we've gotten, nobody in our neighborhood believes anything Mr. Erickson says. We've gotten promises, and it's never come through. So I guess I only can deal with one project, you have all of them, but from what I saw in the presentation, you come in, Mr. Erickson tells you what's gonna happen, stuff happens, he comes in and shows slides of all the roads done. You don't know, is everybody happy or not? You're getting Mr. Erickson's spin on that project. And I guess I can just tell you, that's not the case. You talked last time about the warranty period or whatever. I think I would disagree with them respectfully, that I think that pipe's too big. I've lived there for 29 years. Half a dozen times it was really heavy rain and it went through. It wasn't worth doing that with the roads. The one just north of Fetchies is way too big too, and I'm not an engineer, but looking from the road, it looks like it's actually higher where it's supposed to go down the next pipe to go down to the pond. It's not part of their landscape yards, the way that between those two houses, so they don't mow over there or anything like that. And I guess it'd be one thing if Mr. Erickson said, hey, I'm really sorry this happened. We're gonna do our best to fix it. Never got a sorry, never got anything. I had to get you involved to get a firm commitment that it was gonna be fixed. So I still think that the city has to do a process or get something in place to follow up on the work, because none of you guys are trained engineers, civil engineers, neither am I.
Well, I will say this, as mayor of this community, I am very sorry that the expectations were not met of the road, and to Mr. Schroeder as well, and to Mr. Boniface, and to people that were not happy. As mayor, that's my job, is to apologize for that. So I know that I 2 weeks ago went and looked after you were here on Monday and saw the grass, and drove by today and the grass looks much better. I mean, it looks like it's taken. It was kind of,
Did you notice how they did a few feet on either side of the drainage, but then from that side to my driveway they didn't do, and the same thing on the end? Yeah.
well, what I
This
saw,
side, and so it's just, it's not seeded. And then you look at the other side, Dave and Jane Boniface's yard, and Sue and Terry's yard isn't done.
yeah.
Now, you have the benefit of a whole bunch of people have decided to take it on their own because, the way they say it, the city won't do it.
Yeah.
So they're just doing it themselves. Harry's 85 years old, they'll doing it, the son.
Yeah.
And,
Well, but I'm gonna say this, because we're over our time, and so we're gonna get on with this. I am gonna say this, from the mayor, from the top, I'm sorry that it doesn't meet the expectations. I trust our engineer, I trust WSB and all the projects that they've done, and they've done, I don't know how many years, Mr. Erickson, WSB has been working with the cities.
To 2006. And
To-
I too will apologize, and I think we've had a very good back and forth discussions.
You've
And
been-
I've been out on site and trying to address things, and we've had some difficulties with our contractor, and I do apologize for their efforts or lack thereof as well. And I apologize if I didn't come across as professional as I should have to you. I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but I will continue to work with you and get
I just gotta clarify, Mr. Erickson has been very responsive. On Labor Day, I sent both those guys an email
Yeah.
asking some question. To my surprise, they both answered on Labor Day.
Yeah.
Which is kudos. But then this is, and say this, and I hope you take it in the way it's intended. I called Mark before I came up here and said, hey, some of the people are just doing the work themselves. They're buying their own grass seed and stuff, and they get reimbursed for that. And he told me, well, you know, every project I work on, people have such pride in their yard that they just don't wait for us. Well, it was late August and September of 2022 for the 2021 story project. So either Mr. Erickson thinks I'm really stupid, or he's, you know, he's trying to sell me something.
So again, I'm sorry, again, I'm gonna say, I'm sorry. I'm in a position right now that, you know, we're trying to do everything we possibly can. The letter went out, we worked on, I mean, I've got a copy of the letter, right? And we were out there working on it, and we have something on the agenda today to be able to talk about it. But I can tell you this, I mean, I had a young kid drive through my yard, tire tracks all over the place. You know, we seeded it 3-4 times. We watered it the whole entire summer, and it barely even came back. So some of it is weather, right? And I'm not trying to, and I'm not gonna get whatever, but just there's a lot of circumstances involved. And I don't know what more to do but to say from me, for the staff, and for the city, is that we're sorry. We have great staff. WSB has done a great job. I will stand up to that until I'm done being mayor. If mistakes happens, he owns it, and so does WSB. The contractor is a different story. But please stay for the rest of this, because we are gonna be talking about how we can take care of people that have put money in.
All due respect, Mayor, if the process isn't put in to follow up on the engineering projects, I think that's a big miss, and you're wasting taxpayers' money.
Okay.
And
And you're entitled to that opinion.
yeah.
Yeah, so, all right, thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? No? All right, with that, we'll move on to number 1, approval of minutes. Consider approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the Wyoming, Minnesota City Council for September 20th, 2022. There are no comments or questions. Do we have a motion to approve?
So
You guys are gonna do this again to me tonight? Okay, so we have a first by member Schilling, a second by member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Consent agenda number 2, 3, 4, and 5. Does anybody wish to pull an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, we need a motion to approve consent agenda 2, 3, 4, and 5.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by member Schilling. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by member Luker. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. On the agenda item, acknowledge receipts of reports of officers, boards, commissions, and department heads. Number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Is there anybody who wishes to pull a report? Hearing none, we'll move on to old business. Number 11, to discuss the 2021 street improvement project restoration process. Mr. Linwood, are you starting with that for us?
I will start, Mayor.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor, members of council. This is a little background. Obviously, Mr. Babbitt was up here recently discussing this item, but we'll continue to have that. I'm just going to give a little bit of synopsis for the record, and for people that weren't here our first time, as this was discussed at our last council meeting. Last council meeting on the 20th, we had the same topic come up. And just to give the council, and I think you're all aware of it, but just to go through a little summation of where we've gotten to at this point. That the grass restoration efforts on this 2021 street project. The project was dormant seeded at the end of the 21 season. The dormant seed was not successful in producing good grass coverage in the spring and through the entirety of the project. The city's engineer and staff worked with the contractor to have the project reseeded, blanketed in areas of June 22. Once again, the entirety of the project was not successful in producing grass, largely due to the timing of that seed when it took place, and then the significant drought conditions that we saw this summer. The area was once again most recently seeded that second week of September in 2022. Most of the areas have come in now. They're not completely in, but it's better. Once again, we've had a significantly dry September. I know a lot of our residents, as they were before, a lot of them are watering now, and obviously that, with any type of seeding, that makes a big difference. We have not had any real significant issues with this type of grass restoration on our previous projects, so that I think this is unique to this particular project, and hence why we're having this discussion tonight. I think one thing that we talked about the last meeting was we're going to be reviewing our city spec right now for grass and for future city projects. We talked a little bit about some communities that they take extreme lengths to go out in other communities and seed and fertilizer and water and mow up to a 2-year period. Obviously, the costs of that are very significant to the entirety of the project. Other communities use a similar approach to what we do, but they give specific examples and to residents in regards to how they should maintain the grass and water it and care for it. And I think what we've kind of talked about from a staff level is to be trying to find some balance to relook at our spec and see what really didn't go well on this particular project, and obviously trying to be project cost thoughtful too, as we don't want to try to raise the cost on these expensive projects any more than we have to. The other item that was discussed at that last council meeting was a direction for staff and legal to look at research reimbursement for the property owners potentially, or other project owners who decided to add their own seed and black dirt for the project. Some of the items staff would like to discuss with council and receive direction on tonight are as follows, and that's some of the legal considerations of the reimbursement precedent for the grass, seed, and dirt, minimum maximum reimbursement amount for products purchased, and we wouldn't include, right now staff would be recommending that we don't include time in that. And then the necessary, it's necessary for the city if we would have to receive a receipt from a property for that reimbursement. We've talked before in regards to the driveways, when we have homeowners that replace the entirety of driveways, it's the city will give them credit for that beginning portion of the driveway, but we just require that they show that they've completed the work on the entirety of the driveway. So I think that's some of the topics that we want to go into tonight. I can stand for any council questions that, and I believe we'll have our legal counsel go into some of the legal considerations of this a bit more depth.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, I'll go around the Diaz, please. We'll start with Member Luger.
I have no questions on this, but I do want to hear the legal take on it, for sure.
Okay. Member Yeager.
I mean, this seems to be a rare, an unusual occurrence. Weather notwithstanding, I'm sure since 2006, we've had other dry summers too. And all the projects we had, grass grew in, did not have a problem. On this particular one, even now, like when I walk by it in the evening, right by Mr. Babbitt's house, that's not growing in as well as across the street. And since I'm walking by and I'm bored, we get up close and personal and look at it to see what's growing, what's not growing, what's weedy, what's not. I mean, if this is an anomaly, is there a legal way to, if we went with reimbursement, to stipulate or put in any kind of reimbursement policy that all avenues with the contractor and or why should we deal with a subcontractor? I mean, we hired Forest Lake Contracting to get the grass in, and Forest Lake Contracting has to make sure the grass is in. But is there a way to stipulate that all, this comes into play after all avenues of dealing with the contractor have been exhausted?
Member Yeager, would you be okay if we all ask questions and then Mr. Lunan can kind of answer at one time? Is that all right, in case, or do you want to answer it?
I mean, I can answer that now. We can,
Okay.
I can be, I think it's just an active discussion, and
Sure.
that's fine. And certainly, we've looked at the contractor requirements. As Administrator Linwood indicated, we've evaluated the city spec sheet. I think, upon review in hindsight, the spec sheet can be updated to be a bit more clear about the requirements with regards to the reseeding and the resodding. We can certainly, one more time explore options with the contractor, but upon the review that I've undertaken and, consideration of the agreements that we have, I don't know that there's gonna be much further remedy there from the contractor with regards to this project. It is sort of a subjective standard that we're looking at here. And so certainly we can make that a stipulation if this council is to go forward with an option to reseed. I think Councilmember Yeager's point is very well taken, that we want to be careful in what type of precedent we're going to be establishing here. So we want to be clear on if the council takes any sort of action, whether it be reimbursement or something else, that we're clear about the circumstances with regards to this project in particular that necessitate it, so as not to establish down the road that people are just simply running out with, bags of seed or bags of dirt. As Administrator Linwood said, we looked at sort of the credit for the driveway and that type of stuff, and I think there's ways for us to establish that. We can discuss that after we go through here, but we can put that sort of stipulation in. I think at this point, there probably is no further remedy for the city against the contractor themselves, and so it's a matter of, how we want to go about rectifying it. If council's inclined, we can certainly send further demand, send demand from my letterhead to the contractor, but in reviewing the standards, I think it's a difficult hill for us to recover there.
So what you're saying, the contractor's basically done?
Yes, unless we want to bring out them or a different contractor, yes.
Okay. From where I'm sitting, this is an anomaly, but it needs to be rectified. I'm not inclined to set a precedent because I'm afraid that everybody that comes in will say, I can't wait for this. I'm putting it in now. Reimburse me. And that can lead to a whole nother bunch of headaches too. So I'm not, thrilled with that, but is there a legal way of making this a standalone due to it being an anomaly and not setting precedent?
Yeah, and I will discuss that a little bit more in depth
Okay.
once we go through this.
Okay, anything else?
That was about it.
Okay, Member Schilling?
Mr. Linwood already kind of made what I was going to make a statement. The ways different municipalities do things, we could easily, in our engineering specs, we could throw fresh sod down and we have the city go by and water that every day. Unfortunately, that's a substantial cost to the city, the taxpayers. It's one of the reasons why we usually spec with a seeding, correct? Or we do a hydro seeding, which is one step above that. But we also live in an area, and again, what I saw over there, yeah, it's getting better, but we also live in an area where it's very sandy. And these are all these road right-of-ways, all that sand gets dumped, and then when we redo it, it kind of gets it mixed up. So it's a tough thing to do because there are two ways, in my opinion, that we can do things. Yes, we can do it a little bit different how we do it. But it's a substantial more of a cost. But a lot of people do, like you had said, some of your neighbors have come out and seeded and they water it. And I'm one of those goofballs that would do that. I love my yard. So if the city came through, I would be out there, But, you can't expect everybody to do that. So that was kind of my statement that I wanted to make. And as long as I've been a part of the city government here, this is the first time I've heard of anything like this happening, unfortunately. So now we're sitting here discussing it. But I did have a question for you, Mr. Erickson. Our engineering specs when we bid projects are our processes, right? And then the legal language is in the contract. So
That's correct.
So there's really an actual process on paper. The specs call out for what it's supposed to do and what each contractor is supposed to do. And if they don't, then we have the legal and the contract language that allows us to do what we need to do.
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct. And so we do update our city spec every single year.
Right.
We encounter whether it's new products.
Okay.
The Public Works has interest in changing from one certain type of pipe or fitting to another, or in this case, our seating specifications. We will revisit that. We'll probably come back to City Council with some recommendations on how we can tighten things up a little bit.
Okay.
How we might want to address certain different types of circumstances, whether it be drought or whether it be watering. We'll present some options to City Council about what we might suggest to really remedy this from occurring again in the event that we have a certain contractor that's not performing as well as we'd like, or if we have weather conditions that is preventing grass from growing as well as we'd like, and even communications with property owners. And so we've talked about some of those things already that we definitely will follow back up and implement.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was all I had.
Okay, Member Onstead?
I don't have any question. I just want to make sure that we're not making our projects so costly that the residents can't afford it. And I know that the project on the west side of the freeway, my neighborhood, you know, one yard looked great, the next one looked bad. You know, is that mine was one of the ones that looked bad. But I also know that, you know, I wasn't watering where my neighbor across the street was meticulous about how he took care. Also, I know that I have, you know, a bad yard for grass where his is great. I just want to make sure that we're not putting in such high specs that we're outcosting ourselves where we can't do these projects. I don't want to put a high bill on everybody's property. So I'm looking forward to working on this and coming up with a solution. It might not hit everybody, but I hope, or it might not be the perfect solution for everybody, but I hope that we can make some people happy.
Just one second. Mr. Sykes, are you able to hear us? Are we talking loud enough in our microphones? Okay, I wasn't sure. Just, okay. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that our microphones were working good for you. Okay, thank you. So really, all my questions have been asked and answered. This hasn't come up before, and so I think we do need something to the homeowners, just in general, right? When we go out and we finish the project. I think that is a good process to have on that. I don't understand specs. You know, I have driven on that road. I don't feel a bump in the culvert. I don't, you know, I don't know how that looks, but I trust what you and the engineers have done. So the only thing I have concerns about is that subcontractor. You know, if there were some issues, it shouldn't be this difficult to do, right? So, Mr. Lunan, if you could help us understand or craft how we don't make this a precedent, but we need some type of verbiage on how it's this project specific. What do you do in terms of receipts? Because, you know, how does that work? If you could maybe legalese-wise kind of help us on this.
Certainly. So, as we've all indicated here, this is a unique circumstance, certainly unique to the city, in that we haven't dealt with this with projects in the past. I think the important thing here is to ensure that we're establishing a record of the situation that has led up to the necessity of whatever action the council may take. And thus far, I think we have established a fairly clear record. We are aware that the project was complete, that the yard work and the seating was contracted out. The contractor came out, it didn't take. Came out a second time, it didn't take, and they've, in some instances, have come out a third time with issues. We know that this has been a very, very dry year for us. It's been difficult, and potentially without, you know, the natural moisture that we may come to expect and hope for, some of the seed may have had more difficult time taking. We also know that there are properties along the road that have taken and some that have not. And it has caused certain citizens to potentially have taken into their own hands to try and get their yards to a point where they're satisfied back to the pre-condition prior to this project having taken place. So taking all that into account, we do have a unique situation here with all those factors coming into play. There's not a precedent established in that we've had the contractor come out several different times and it hasn't taken. And we've, you know, done our best to try and deal with it in that regard. It's not working, and we understand that citizens have already undertaken it upon themselves to do the seeding. Ultimately, this is a decision that is left to the council as to whether and how you want to deal with those homes that have had to take it upon themselves or will take it upon themselves to establish their grass. We also know that even if the seed had been laid as anticipated, there is still going to be some onus on the homeowners to put some maintenance into it or hire maintenance and to put water into it or set the sprinklers or whatever. So those are costs that are likely incurred either way. What we've looked at this as a staff is we've said the best route is likely to go with a reimbursement model. Reimburse upon receipts, similar to as we would with the driveways. At this point, the recommendation would be for anybody that's incurred those costs now, if they have the receipts along the route, to do a reimbursement, cap that reimbursement. Staff's recommendation is a cap of $75 on seed and soil, and allow those receipts to be brought in. For any individuals who still have bad yards or do not have receipts, we would recommend an opportunity for them to come to the city before they incur those costs, allow the city to look at the yard to determine that it's not back to that construction condition, and then once staff has an opportunity to review the yard and determine that it's not to a point that it should be, to then authorize and say, we'll reimburse you for up to that same amount so that you can, incur those costs. We think that this properly addresses those yards that did not take. It allows for those individuals who have previously undertaken it while they didn't want to wait for the city or wait for the contractor to still be taken care of for the costs that they've incurred. And it allows the city to be active and, affirmatively review and determine the yards that may in the future need additional seeding or additional soil work. So that's the recommendation upon the discussion of staff. That establishes a clear precedent. It establishes a clear threshold that the city can adhere to. And so, upon discussion of determination, we can modify the receipt requirement. We can modify the capped expense rate. We can modify the deadlines. I mean, it is at the discretion of the council as to how you want to deal with this, but that would be the recommendation. So if we were to go forward in that regard, we would entertain a motion from from the council directing staff to issue those reimbursements upon either receipt of a receipt or review of the property, then authorization if it's not back. Because at the end of the day, as we've all said, this really does boil back down to the spec sheet. It's a subjective standard. We can understand council members have been out there, staff has been out there, there's yards that seem to not be back up to that level that they should be. And so we just need to evaluate those as they may come and take at the word those people that have incurred previous costs without knowing for sure whether or not the contractor's work took or their work did it themselves.
Okay, and should there be an expiration date? I mean, I don't want to see something 10 years from now, right? So
Sure.
shouldn't there be a
Yes, that's an excellent point. I mean, we have some time until snowfall. You could do it until the end of the year, just long, obviously knowing that staff's not gonna be able to see a yard after the snow falls.
Yeah.
But yes, we should cap it.
June 1st next year, that way, it's getting late to do it now. Do June 1st next year, that way you got spring season.
Okay.
The concern in doing it June 1st of next year is that if we're going to be evaluating yards, we should be evaluating them now, not into the spring, because people it's a different, if have staff look at them, we want to be able to see the condition of that yard through this year when the contracts have been out there. And, June 1st, then we would probably need to push the standard into June 1st to allow time for the yards to take in the spring, to be watered, and to get taken care of. It's a fine standard, but we can't have council going out there in March because the yards are gonna look quite different.
If I got mine analyzed, I could buy the stuff, or I could get approved and I could buy it in the spring and do it in the spring.
Well, I see what you're saying. So if the council makes it, if there's a determination that the yard isn't to the quality
Right.
that the purchase could happen in the spring, I mean, that's up to the council. I mean, that's, again, it's a discretionary call. It's what caps the council wants to put on it. I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. I think as long as the review would happen, this, in 2022 before the snow comes, so we can see the conditions of the yard as it currently sits, I think allowing them to buy it in the spring is reasonable, as long as at that time staff or somebody within the city has made a determination to say, yeah, this isn't back up to the standard.
And who makes that determination? And how do we have some type of legal signature of something said that, yes, the city is, reimbursed you, the city now is without any more ownership to any more issues, if I'm saying those words right. So is there a legalese to that as well? Or can they come back to us and say, well, the seed we bought or whatever didn't work, so you
Sure.
owe us for more?
Yeah, so two things on that is again, right now, I don't know that they were to be any legal recourse to begin with.
Yeah.
So the decision here by the council is really make a determination, try and correct an issue that may not have recourse, but understanding that, hey, we can look at this on the eye test subjectively, this is the right thing to do. I think council would establish that once this deadline hits, it's done. Once you get one reimbursement, it's done. And we can
Yep.
certainly draft just a short statement that people sign when they get the reimbursement, and keep track. As far as, you know, who would be able to review on the staff, you know, the potential, if we're gonna have multiple owners, you know, the potential is we talk with Administrator Linwood as to who might be the appropriate individual or individuals. And then maybe if the individual denies it, we would allow for an appeal to the council where they could bring in the pictures and say, you know, I was denied the reimbursement, but I want to say that I'm still entitled to it if a denial ended up being issued. And potentially that may take some additional discussion and work with staff as to what that may be or who that individual be. I don't want to put Administrator Linwood on the spot, but
I think we have some individuals, even in our public works department, that have turf grass experience and some of those restoration that would have background enough. And
Okay.
I think there's a fail-safe there, as Mr. Lunan said, you know, if there was consideration of denial by staff, that they would have an appeal process to the council to say, we don't disagree necessarily with how this went, and we'd like to have the city council review it.
Okay, and so what we need to decide right now is what the cap or what the limit is, correct? The financial limit on that.
well, you first need to determine if you are going to do the
Okay.
reimbursement.
Okay, so, let's start with that. So, Member Yeager, yes
well-
or no to the reimbursement?
Where's the reimbursement coming out of?
It should be able to come out of the 2021 street project funding still.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I can go for a reimbursement
Okay,
with a stipulation. I would like a stipulation that this is a one-time,
I mean, the
one-time
reimbursement will solely, like, the way that it would solely be related to this project. And again.
Right,
think
because
we've
I
es-
don't want the next project, somebody coming in and saying,
Correct. I think we've established on the record fairly clearly the reasons why this project necessitates this type of
Okay.
remedy, as opposed to, hopefully, we don't run into this situation in the future. In a similar circumstance, I think council would consider a similar remedy. So I think we do have a clear record established as to why this is potentially the decision that the council will make here tonight.
and Member Yeager, are you good with 75? What's your total?
75, yeah, I'm good with 75. And I'm good with Mr. Lunen's explanation of,
Okay, perfect. Member Schilling?
I'm on board for both. As Mr. Erickson said, I would just like to, you know, look at our spec from going future, because whether we like it or not, these properties are city property. It's not homeowner property, it's a right-of-way. And it does require some homeowner participation in that, and I think we just need to tweak that when moving forward. So I'm on board with everything Mr. Lunan said. That was,
75?
yep, $75, yep.
Okay. Member Onstad?
Yeah, I'm good with 75. I just want to make sure that it's just for seed, sod, and possibly fertilizer. That, you know, it's not being used for tools or anything like that.
Okay, so you want it stated exact seed and sod,
Yeah.
or
Dirt.
sorry, seed and dirt. Okay.
Could be, yeah.
Could theoretically
I
be
just said,
said, there's not gonna be very much.
we might want
Yeah.
clarification on that,
Okay.
if it's just, if we're just doing strictly black dirt and seed, or if you wanna incorporate any kind of fertilizer or sod, or what that would be good for. I would say that's probably your 4 if you're gonna consider 4, or is it just simply 2 black dirt and seed? I think that's
Yeah,
at the
well-
council's discretion.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's, Member Luker, what's your,
Yes, yes to reimbursement for $75, yes to reviewing our specs.
okay, and what's the seed, black dirt, what do you want to put in that $75 receipt? I'm doing seed and black dirt. I'm just going on the record for that, yes, and $75. So is there,
I don't have an issue with fertilizer. Seed, it was, what were the 4 words? Seed, sod, black dirt,
Black dirt and fertilizer.
fertilizer. Okay, any or all. I mean, you know, every homeowner is gonna have, it's gonna be their discretion how they want to fix their yard, and fix that. So, you know, I, at the point where we have a $75 cap and it's based on those 4 things, I'm fine with whatever.
okay? Member Onstad?
I already went.
Yeah, but do you,
Oh.
of the,
Yeah.
so you're
Yeah.
fertilizer, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to get it all done. Okay, Member Schilling?
Any of the following 4 is fine.
Okay, any 4. Okay, and Member Yeager?
I'm not too thrilled with sod, because that can run into some money.
Yeah.
But I can see doing fertilizer. How do you all feel about like a date, you know, when the first snow falls? Because I would not want plow accidents to muddy the,
Right, I think
the
we-
conversation
Yeah,
again.
we need probably, I would think by the end of the month, I think, I know we have precedent of a Halloween storm years ago, but I think the end of the month would be realistic in regards to review.
Okay, so the residents would need to come here or call, whatever, email?
But just to be clear, so
Yeah.
I think the anticipation would be any of the residents who have incurred costs and can demonstrate that they've incurred these costs
Yep,
via receipt prior to today,
yep,
and then going forward from today, if they think they are entitled to, then a review, I think before the end of the month is reasonable, to then authorize them to go make the purchase, so they're not making it after the fact and then coming.
okay, so, we're all in agreement, except for the sod, I agree, it gets expensive. It would be like not even one piece of sod,
Right.
maybe.
Yeah.
So, or two. But, okay, so we're all in agreement with that. So what we need to do is have a motion made, and your verbiage is amazing, so can we just say ditto?
Yeah,
Do we need to,
motion.
what, I mean, it's already
And
what's on
also,
record.
I guess just the last thing to clarify, you will authorize city staff to appoint qualified members to review, and the citizen, or excuse me, any individual can come and appeal to the council if they disagree with the decision of the staff. I just want to make sure that we have that.
On record.
Okay, how about this? So I'll make a motion that we authorize reimbursement to those homeowners on Glen Oak Drive as part of the 2021 street improvement project. We authorize reimbursement to them for grass seed, fertilizer, and black dirt if they had to do their, restore their yards themselves. We do this with the following stipulations. First, that they come to the city to have their yards evaluated before October 31st. They present receipts of their work. They are aware that if they are denied reimbursement, they can appeal to the council, that a cap of the reimbursement will be $75 coming out of the 2021 Street Improvement Fund. Did I forget anything?
Just one minor correction would be that any of the residents along the route who can produce receipts that they have purchased prior to today's meeting will be reimbursed without review, because they may have already fixed their yard, and then it's not
Okay,
fair.
plus whatever.
Yeah,
what you
that sounds
said.
good, okay, so we,
One other thing, I'm wondering if someone had a professional service come in that did the same thing because they can't physically do it, would we reimburse up to $75 for that too? Is that an option that we'd wanna
Yes.
make sure that someone,
yeah, yes,
You offer that as a friendly amendment?
I do.
awesome.
That is a friendly amendment.
Question, the street project in total extended, the scope of it was far past Glen Oak. Are we offering this up to everybody whose road got done, or just
I said
representation
Glen
from
Oak.
Glen Oak? I know, but,
Yeah.
okay.
Did it come in on the rest of the project, just Glen Oak, they put us over?
Why would, go ahead.
I'm aware of a couple of other property owners that have expressed, they've been reseeded as well now, so I'm not sure the condition of those. We can certainly, if council is okay, we can certainly follow up with those two individuals as well.
Does that work, Mr. Lunan?
That works for me as long as we're clear about who the reimbursement's going to apply to.
So the 2021 street project maybe?
You
is-
want to do I'll take out the Glen Oak part then. How's that?
Okay, does that work?
Works.
Mr. Lunan, we're good?
I think we got it, yep.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have an amendment, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by member
Do we have a
Schilling.
question?
I just have a comment that I'd like to make on this project. I've done a lot of research on my yard trying to get grass to grow. If you go to the county master gardener, they'll tell you that only certain grass seeds grow well. So you run down to Menards, you grab the Kentucky bluegrass. Usually it doesn't grow good here in Minnesota unless you give it a lot of attention. There is a fescue. It runs more than $100 a bag. It is actually the grass that is recommended by the state of Minnesota, and it's recommended by the county. So you can do your own, you can do your own research on that. But there's certain grasses that, I mean, you're gonna grow one year, you water the hell out of them, and little bit later on, why it's
Yep.
dead, something is, they come back and say, well, that one failed. But,
Okay.
that
Right.
fescue, it does grow good, it grows good in shady areas, sunny areas. Those are all the things that you have to take into consideration when you're buying grass seed. But it does run about
Sunshade,
$100.
they're out, and yeah, I know.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
it's just a comment, just one thing I just wanted you to think about, because people are gonna come back and say, oh, mine failed. I went down to Menards and I paid $50 for it.
Yeah.
But if Minnesota doesn't like it, then, cold winters, like,
Yep.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Also, do we need to stipulate this as a one-time reimbursement?
Just relates to this street project.
No, I mean,
One-time reimbursement, so just.
Yeah, sorry, and you guys, I think you have a deadline that after
no,
October
I mean,
31st, yeah.
if you're reimbursed, you can't get reimbursed again.
Correct. Each household is capped at $75.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, so we do need to vote on,
You got a second for that motion?
we did get a second, Member Schilling. So
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. All right. We are
I'd like to make
moving,
one comment and then I'll leave, and I'm sorry that I got feisty before. We can disagree about if they're doing a good job. I have a very small experience with it. But every place I go and purchase good or service, they want to survey me on how was my service, how was my staff, was the quality of my product good and everything. I had mentioned before, and I saw a couple of people last time, people writing stuff down. I don't understand how you spend this much money without asking the people that had the work done on the road for feedback. So you're saying, okay, yeah, you think he's doing a really good job, and you probably have really good reasons, I have a really good reason, and my neighbors have a really good reason thinking it didn't go well. We both have our opinions. We need facts, and the only way we get that is to get it from the people who are affected by that project every year. And I guess that's my last thing I'm gonna say.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
okay, appreciate it, thank you. All right, new business number 12, to consider resolution 22-1088, a resolution approving the purchase of the 2022 Dodge Durango Pursuit SUVs from Guardian Fleet Safety in the amount of $134,348.12. Mr. Chief Bauer, are you taking that one on?
That one's mine.
Okay.
I had already turned before you finished.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Just making sure.
I'll try and keep this a little less confusing than Chuck's dump truck purchases earlier this year.
Yeah, good. Okay.
All right, so thank you very much. Early this year, council approved the purchase of 3 Ford Explorer police interceptors in prior resolution. As the year was progressing, that was to purchase a replacement vehicle for 1 squad that was totaled in December of last year, and then 2 that were slated for replacement this year. As the year had progressed, it was becoming more and more apparent that we still didn't have a build date. They weren't scheduled for a build. And I started looking at other options at that point just to see what other possibilities there were to get these purchased. On September 7th of this year, we were notified by Ford that they had canceled our order. They were kind enough to give us a 24-hour period of time to reorder 2023s. And were kind enough to offer a price of $8,000 more per vehicle for the same vehicle. And considering that price increase, the turnaround of less than 24 hours to order those vehicles, we weren't able to come to council for those purchases. I had been having these conversations with Guardian Fleet, and they do offer vehicles that they do maintain. They purchase them from dealers across the country and maintain them. So if you do have a crashed vehicle, they're able to purchase one and have it built within 2 weeks. So you're not looking at a 11-month delay on getting those vehicles. I did attempt to locate 2022 Interceptors across the country at a variety of different dealerships that said they had them on their lot. They don't. They just have them on their website, and then they try and sell you on something else. This outfitter, they are a service that does builds of police vehicles and fire vehicles, and have been very responsive. They also allow us to purchase or order vehicles for the following year without having that financial obligation to them, because they know they can resell it to somebody else. They'll order it for us, and if we don't purchase it, in the end, a budget don't go through, something happens, they'll sell it to somebody else. There's no risk to us. They did have the availability of 3 Durangos on their lot, or they had just received them, and those are available for purchase at this time. There's some difference of the vehicles, but it essentially is it's the Dodge version of what the Ford vehicle. So it's an SUV, similar size, and the only considerations that, I do have 3 of them on hold at this point, under no financial obligation, because there was so many departments reaching out to them to say, hey, our Fords got canceled, what do you have available? So if you look at, on page 2 of the request here, pricing summary, the vehicle itself, you're looking at about $42,000 for the purchase of the vehicle. That does include a slight increase in cost because they do have those carrying costs for them purchasing it and them having that on their lot. Upfitting, the warranty that we previously have purchased for our vehicles is that 5-year, 100,000 mile warranty. Adds up to right about that $61,461.72. That's as close as we can come right now. Depending on once we get into it, there might be some equipment that we can reuse, repurpose, might come down. There might be some slight adjustment there, but that's best case right now we've worked through. On the one vehicle that was totaled, we have received payment already of $25,549.68. We received salvage payment for the sale of the salvage vehicle for $38.75. And there is some insurance money still hanging out there that once we get into it, if we are able to, or if there's equipment that was damaged that we can't repurpose because it was stuck in this other vehicle, they will reimburse us for it. They just haven't done that yet because we can't really do that until we get into it. So the cost to city on that first one is $31,924.68. I'm optimistic that it can come down from there a little bit once we get into it with that insurance payment. Should be more, but that's a very conservative estimate at this point. The other 2, Squad 202, right now has 124,000 miles on it. It is a 2018, and we're looking to replace that one. Again, the only difference in this would be they offer a trade-in regeneration program, so we can recognize that savings rather than our previous practice of putting these up for auction. Once we put a vehicle up for auction, we don't have any ability to recall it. We have to accept whatever they give us on an auction. Previously, the last 2 auctions we did on these similar vehicles, we received $6,200 in 2021 and $5,100 in 2022 on auction. For this on Squad 202, they have offered us $9,500 in trade-in. So we recognize that at this point, rather than paying the full amount and then taking that back in on auction at a later date. We just don't know what we're gonna get in auction. This is a guarantee trade-in value. The third vehicle there is Squad 207 that has about 101,000 miles on it right now. Same deal, they're offering us $11,000. The Squad 202 did have an accident, so that did devalue it previously, so that's why we're getting a little bit less on that one. So all in all, you're looking at those costs. The entire cost to the city at this point for those 3 vehicles is $134,348.12. Again, it's not what we had hoped for. It's not a great situation, but it's basically our only option at this point that we've been able to find. And like I said, I've considered a variety of different pathways, and this seems to get us what we need at this point. As an example, the squad being down this squad for the last 11 months or 10 months, we have one that's 15 months old, 17 months old, with 51,000 miles on it already. So we're putting a lot of miles on the vehicles that we do have. So we do need to get these replaced. We couldn't even order a 2023 at this point from Ford. That date of September 8th was the date for ordering all police vehicles, the Ford Interceptors, for 2023. So I don't even have the option of ordering those for next year. I can't even wait until budget gets approved and order them in January again. So this is our option. I do have a Durango on hold for 2023 already because I don't have, that's the option I have at this point, but we can talk about that later.
Okay, all right. So.
Any questions? Ms.
Yeah,
Moore?
Chief Bauer, I have
Sure.
a couple. I think the second year in on, when I was a council member, I rode with a police officer. I could not understand why we have, at 100,000 miles, why we get rid of our cars, right?
Sure.
Because a lot of us drive, I have a car that's supposed to go 300,000,
Yep.
right? When I was in that car, that changed my perception on why we need to do that, right?
Right.
We were going, the car was running all the time. We
Mhm.
went from 0 to, it felt like, 125 miles per hour within 30 seconds, right? Can you, because that was my perception, can you explain a little bit more for people that are maybe watching or listening to this? It's a lot of money, and it
It
is
is
more
a lot.
money than we normally spend, which isn't because of anything you've done. It's the basis on cars, right?
Sure.
But if you could maybe explain a little bit about why police cars at 100,000 miles, what issues could happen, and why the program is the way it is.
Sure. That, we're able to purchase, first of all, the city has decided that historically we purchased that 100,000 mile warranty to really try and predict our maintenance costs will be just ongoing maintenance. After that 100,000 miles, the factory doesn't offer another warranty. We would have to go third-party warranty, and I'm not sure what the cost of that would be or what that would look like. I'm not even sure they even exist. It just seems like the prank calls where you want to talk to you about your extended vehicle warranty. But there is, these vehicles are driven, they're driven hard. There's a lot of miles put on them. They're left idling on a frequent basis. They just generally are well used after 100,000 miles. And this is a way for us to really plan accordingly so we don't have unexpected expenses. For example, the 205 that we do have is one of the hybrids, just had a $6,000 battery replacement. That was under warranty at 50,000 miles. It took a month to get the battery. They had to do a nationwide emergency search for it. It was gone for a month. So, having it under warranty saved that cost. But when we get beyond 100,000 miles, we're out of warranty, and we just don't know what those expenses are going to be at that point.
And then we're adding those additional miles because obviously we have a car out.
Correct.
So we have one car, maybe two. Is it just one car we're using on more of the rotation?
All of them are getting more frequent, but that one has gotten the brunt of that because it's the only car that's driving at night at this point. So
Yeah.
it's really
Okay.
getting high mileage on it. Yes.
Okay, great. I'll give council a chance to ask their questions. Member Onstad.
I have no questions.
Member Schilling?
No questions. Thanks for the presentation, Chief. I'm seeing it in my city as well. We had to switch as well to
Yep.
these. And one of the things with police cars is they run 24 hours a day. So it may have 100,000, but it's been running since it's been built. So they count hours on them. That's the other reason. So
Sure.
I do it with my fleet vehicles because they sit running constantly. So
Thank you. Member Yeager?
Are there a lot of miles on these new squads?
The ones we're purchasing,
Yeah,
they're zero. They're new.
they're new, okay.
Yes. Yep. They're new vehicles.
And are these also hybrids?
They are not.
Okay.
They do not offer a hybrid.
Okay. So we're going from, because I remember the resolution we had to,
Right.
we were going to rescind called for hybrid cars.
It did.
Okay, so these won't be hybrid, that's fine with me. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Member Luger?
I have no questions.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that, we need a motion to approve Resolution 22-1088, a resolution approving the purchase of 3 2022 Dodge Durango Pursuit SUVs from Guardian Fleet Safety in the amount of $134,348.12. Do we have a motion to
So
approve?
moved.
We have a motion to approve by Member Onstad. Do we have a second?
second.
We have a second by Member Schilling. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 13 should probably be pretty easy. To consider rescinding Resolution 220109 to authorize the purchase of 3 Ford Utility Inceptors SUV vehicles for a total amount of $142,735.14. Chief Bauer, do you have anything to say on that, or Mr. Linwood, or?
Just to practice good governance and transparency, Mayor, just to
Okay.
have council rescind this is for the action.
Okay, any questions from council? If not, we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Member Schilling. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So approved. Number 14, to consider the hiring of Joe Keating for the Assistant Public Works Superintendent at the starting wage of $41.51. Mr. Linwood, I'm thinking you're doing the.
I am. I'm going to be taking this one tonight. Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, City Council gave staff authorization to begin the search process for Assistant Public Works Superintendent. This was posted locally and then on the League of Minnesota Cities website, along with governmentjobs.com. Staff received 21 applicants for the position. We conducted first round interviews on top applicants, and top applicants from that first round were brought back in for second interviews. From that second interview, the top applicant was selected by staff. Background, employment, and employment verification have been completed on the applicant. David Joe Keating was selected as the top candidate for the position of Assistant Public Works Superintendent. Joe has been working for the city of Shoreview for 17 years. Mr. Keating has been the street supervisor since 2017. In that capacity, Mr. Keating is in charge of 7 full-time staff and 2 mechanics, and coordinates the day-to-day work of personnel and the monitoring condition of equipment for all city departments. He is also responsible for all street maintenance operations, stormwater operations that includes asphalt repair, crack filling, trail sealing, sign maintenance, stormwater, pond maintenance, mowing, tree trimming, snow and ice removal, and infrastructure inspections. Prior to that position, Mr. Keating worked 11 years in the Utilities Division for the City of Shoreview. His responsibilities included water sampling and tested procedures for the city water supply, the maintenance and repair of fire hydrants, gate valves, and water mains. He also completed work on sanitary sewer maintenance and repair and built a collection of databases to record city utility maintenance records. Mr. Keating has a BA in Business from Metropolitan State University, certificates in Management Leadership, and a Public Works Operations certificate. Mr. Keating also holds licenses in both water and sewer operations. Based on his qualifications, wage history, and work experience, staff is recommending starting Mr. Keating at step 5, $41.51 per hour with a 6-month probationary period per the City of Wyoming personnel policy. We do not have a tied down start date at this time. There are some stipulations with his current employer to leave in good standing. We are right now anticipating the end of October, though most likely being a realistic start date.
Okay,
With
thank
that,
you.
I can stand for any questions.
Okay, and I think council, we remember how we all got here in this position. Questions from council, we will start, who have I not started with yet? Member Schilling, we'll start with you. Questions,
I don't have
comments?
any questions. I'm actually excited. He's got a great background. I think he'll fit in perfectly for us, so.
Okay. Member Yeager?
He sounds lovely, but I'm still not comfortable hiring another manager with such a huge levy increase in the horizon.
Sure. I think the one thing to consider as we talked about this position, we were looking at 2 potential lead positions. And with this position, it's actually a budget reduction because we decided to just raise our seasonal employees a bit and actually just create the single position instead of 2 lead supervisor positions and just have the 1. So just for the record that it was actually a reduction.
Okay, great, thank you. Member Onstad?
No questions.
Member Luger?
I have no questions. It seems like a very impressive resume, and I appreciate that it's actually a reduction to our budget.
Perfect. All right, we need a motion to approve the hiring of Joe Keating for the Assistant Public Works Superintendent at the starting wage of $41.51. Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Member Schilling. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Luger. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 15, to discuss the scope of the 2023 East Viking Street and Bridge project and the necessary improvement process step to move forward with the project. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. As you're aware, this project has been a long time coming. I know a number of residents in the audience here can attest to that. It's been requested by the community. We had been encouraged to apply for a grant that we were all aware of. We expanded the scope of the project to include it extending out to Polaris to help us achieve a greater score on that. Unfortunately, we were not able to make lightning strike twice and receive $1 million grant. So we did previously. In this project, we were not able to do that. And so we are discussing that here again this evening. We previously had discussed the addition of that segment out to Polaris. And at this juncture, staff is recommending removal of that addition that we had added from Glen Oak all the way out to Polaris. Reason being is that was not originally in our CIP. Again, it was added because the grant dollars would have more than covered that, plus covered a portion of the other portion of the project. And so it made sense at that time. However, now again, we're at a juncture where we don't believe it's prudent to move forward with that aspect of the project. We think it's the east-west portion of East Viking that is an urban section. And then also, we did receive grant funds for the bridge replacement, and so we do still plan on leaving that portion of the project in place. Part of the process governed by state statute 429 does have a timeline for when we order improvements to the time that we move forward with bidding a project, and that generally is about 1 year unless otherwise stipulated in that resolution. And being that there are changes to the project, we think it's prudent upon us to talk to all of the property owners along that corridor. Some will get a note or a memo indicating that they are no longer part of the project, and others will receive additional information about where this project status is for them. And we would recommend updating that feasibility study. It's not a real large task to update that, so we'd be able to bring that back pretty quickly. But we want to confirm with council first that we are all on the same page with what the scope of the project is. If we agree upon that this evening, again, staff is recommending that segment from Fenwick to Glen Oak, or just a little, I think it's actually a little bit past Glen Oak to the curve. We would then update that feasibility accordingly. Update that based on the project, again, the parameters, update property owners, hold the public hearing again. So we would actually bring that back to council to receive the feasibility study, set the public hearing, hold the public hearing, and then order the improvements again at that juncture. And so that is what staff's recommendation is. Be happy to answer any questions that you have, but again, that it would include that bridge project as well before those funds disappear.
Mr. Erickson, was this the request that we sent to Senator Smith and Senator Klobuchar for that grant? We asked, is that the one?
That is correct. That was a secondary, or excuse me, I take that back, Mayor. That was actually for our public safety facility that we.
That was for Smith and Klobuchar?
Correct, yes. That was
Okay.
for our public safety facility.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I was thinking we did that for this road. for the
We did
grant.
get some letters of support from, I think, Congressman Stauber and
Okay.
For that EDA grant, he did.
Oh, okay, so we did, and that didn't happen. Okay, sounds good. And then, I guess, I'm gonna say this, I feel bad for the residents. You know, we went out and looked at this, right? And I feel bad for the residents that this isn't gonna happen for, and I know what we have to do, I get it, right? I understand that. So my apologies to the residents that, that some of them are not gonna be in this project, so. That was my statement. So we'll go with questions. Member Odstad?
Will this project change we're talking about a price per resident. Will that change here? Or is that anticipated to be the same?
we will evaluate that certainly. We've had some conversations with contractors. I was in Shakopee yesterday, had a conversation with a contractor that bids this type of work. He's more of a paving contractor, and there's a lot of uncertainty as far as what pricing will be next year. He indicated, on one hand, the natural gas shortage and the price of natural gas for them and what they utilize, raw materials and things of that nature, oil costs, things of that nature are a little bit up in the air, but expected to be at or maybe a little bit higher. However, he indicated that most contractors this season are wrapping up all of their work. We've had extremely dry season. There's not a lot of carryover work from this construction season into next construction season. And so that there'll be a lot of hungry contractors early in this bidding season. And so again, it's hard to pin down. We'll do our best to identify what we project for costs. And then we'll update that feasibility study. It will identify what proposed assessments are with that as well.
All right. Member Lugar?
I really like the idea of getting from Glen Oak out to Polaris fixed. I think it's a terrible, it's not a great chunk of road. Just to clarify though, we will reevaluate that. We will add that back into kind of into our mix of how we prioritize roads and how we want to look at that for future projects, correct?
We do every year, we do look at our capital improvements plan. We reevaluate, right? There's varying conditions that exist out there. Some roadways deteriorate faster than others, and so we do evaluate annually and try to reimagine what our priorities are, right? And so that will be a process as well. It wasn't in our 5-year CIP at all, and so I think it certainly does warrant looking at, and it will remain on our list of upcoming projects.
Okay, thank you. Member Yeager?
I noticed a change in wording regarding rehabilitation of drainage structures. Excuse me, are we rehabbing the same amount of drainage structures?
There's some that will be rehabilitated, and there's some that, there will be quite a few new ones as well.
Oh, okay, but it hasn't, the number of drainage structures being rehabbed has not changed from the first report to the second, just the wording is shifted somewhat.
Yeah, so we haven't done the second report, however, we have gone through, part of the process was to go through the design, and so the advantage is, we actually have the actual, when we do a preliminary design and a feasibility study on a project, it's high level, it's not the details, we didn't have the, all the design completed, so now we actually have the design completed, and we'll be able to use it based on much more accurate numbers that we have, because we have the design completed, and so it'll be a pretty easy process to include that into the feasibility study.
Right, so just to put it simply, the drainage structures from the first product, from the first report, is not gonna change.
There's not a change in the scope, correct?
Right,
Yeah.
that's all?
Yep.
And then we'll get another report reflecting the new changes, I take it?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Member Schilling?
I actually don't have any questions. Everybody's kind of pegged all of them on the round table, so.
Okay, and you need a motion for this, correct?
Yeah, we'd like to get direction from council, that is the scope that you'd like to see, and we'll
Okay.
come back with an updated feasibility study in the very near future.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve WSB to do a new scope of the 2023 East Viking project and bridge project and the necessary improvement process steps to move forward with the project.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Member Onstead. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Luger. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 16, to consider a proclamation declaring October 1st through October 31st, 2022 as Manufacturing Month in the city of Wyoming. Has that changed? Isn't it normally a week?
In the 21 was the first time they did month, actually, so this
Yeah.
is the second year of month, but you're right, prior to that, it
Right.
was always week.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it is fairly new.
All right, Mr. Linwood.
Yes, no problem. Mayor, members of council, this is always something that we're excited about here in the city of Wyoming, since we have such a fantastic manufacturing base. It's obviously a huge part of the city of Wyoming, Chisago County, and our Minnesota economy. In 2021, there were 89 manufacturing businesses in Chisago County employing 2,421 people, with wages of almost $135 million, being the second largest payroll of all our business sectors in the county. It has our fourth largest total payroll in business sectors in Minnesota, providing over 23 billion wages in 2021. Within some of the content that I gave you background, you see a little more on the manufacturing jobs and just the great payout there and the benefits, and we're really trying to get our young people excited and involved in this, and kind of goes with the second piece of this report. We have been working led by the Chisago County HREDA, representatives myself and Mr. Sachs from the city of Wyoming, and then representatives from DEED and the North Branch Forest Lake and Chisago Lake School District to once again put on a manufacturing event. The last time we had one was 2019. The COVID pandemic really stopped some of those efforts in previous years, but we have set up multiple tours around the county for those different school districts. We will have tours both at Regal Machine and Rosenbauer on October 13th. That'll be from 9 to 2. Great thanks to both of those companies for opening their doors and allowing these tours. I think it's fantastic to have the students do that. And along with that, Split Rocks has been good enough to, at no charge, open their doors and allow us to use their facilities for that event on October 13th. And we'll have businesses that will have booths at this event and allow for career exploration, as they put it. And they'll have different, example, Rosenbauer bring the virtuality information. Other companies will bring things for the students to try. So really a fantastic event that'll be located in Wyoming, and invite everyone to come in the community and come check that out, council members, and should be a really fun day. So with that, we would just give the recommendation to approve our proclamation for that Manufacturing Month from August 1st to the 31st in the city of Wyoming.
Well, first I want to say thanks to
questions,
Split
Sarah?
Rocks, right?
Yes.
A huge shout out to them. They are always very supportive of the city and initiatives and step right up. So
Yeah,
thank
very-
you
very good to work with, yes.
Yeah, they're great to work with. And I will have to say that I am that mayor that goes to all these other cities and events and talk about that we have 30% of all the manufacturing from Chisago County actually in our city. That's a big deal. That is a very big deal. And I'm hoping that we get workforce housing in here soon so they stay with us and not go other places. And I'm going to say the virtual reality glasses that they do is like the coolest thing ever from Rosenbauer. So it's pretty freaky if you're afraid of heights, such as me. Okay, so I just want to say thank you for that, and we'll go on. Any comments, questions? Member Luker?
No questions. I'm glad that this is returning. I think that's really exciting. I think it's a great moment for our city to shine. And yeah, I absolutely support it.
Member Onstad?
The event at Split Rocks, that's open to the public?
It is open to the public, yes. Yep, well, and we welcome the public by all means. There'll be a lot of businesses there to offer for anyone interesting or almost job fairs. We're calling it, it's like a job fair but career exploration for young or anyone, if have anyone looking for new career change or different
Excellent.
career, so.
Yeah, it was super cool in 2019, just saying. Okay, Member Schilling?
No questions. It's a great event. I support it fully.
All right, and Member Yeager?
No questions. Is it free for people just to go in?
Yep, it is free.
Okay.
At Split Rocks?
Yes.
Not on the
Yes.
tours?
Yeah, the tours are arranged just
Yeah.
for the students, but the career exploration event is open to the public 9 to 2.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, so with that, we need the motion to approve the proclamation declaring October 1st through October 31st, 2022 as Manufacturers Month in the city of Wyoming. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Member Luker. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Council reports. Let's start with Member Luger.
I have no reports. Thanks for attending and watching.
All right, Member Onstad.
I attended the planning commission,
All right.
and that was it.
All right, thank you. Member Schilling.
I have no report. Thanks for the people that came in and those watching. Have a great week.
Member Yeager.
I attended the Highway 8 open house, and thank you all for watching, and thank you all for coming.
All right, thank you. And I attended the Highway 8 open house as well. That was very interesting, where they're going with that. So, and just thanks everybody for being here and for watching. We appreciate it. With that, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
You hesitated. We have a second. All in
Because I
favor?
actually looked over. Aye.
All right, we are